حي على الفلاح.
Give them the example. There were two men. One of these men, we gave him 2 gardens. What were these 2 gardens of? Grapes. And grapes are the most precious and the most prized fruit. Grapes are the most delicate, they're of the most expensive fruits. So Allah gave him of the best fruits. Not just 1 garden, 2 gardens. What else? And we made a border around the grape trees with date palm trees. The delicate trees were in the middle, and the strong protective trees formed a border around it. So the garden has been positioned in a manner that is the most beneficial for the man. So Allah blessed him with not 1 but 2 of these luxurious gardens. And between these 2 gardens there were yet other crops. Both of these 2 gardens would always yield maximum output. There was no shortage. There was no loss of crops, and they would never fall short. What a beautiful arrangement. And Allah says, not only did we give him the best quality, we gave him the best quantity. Now where does the water come from? Allah says, we had caused rivers to gush forth. So the man does not even have to lift a finger. He doesn't have to irrigate. He doesn't have to pray for rain. It's all there for him. And not just this, he had wealth beyond this. Fruits and wealth beyond this. Meaning, he's not just a farmer. He has horses, he has carriages, he has gold, he has silver. So here is a man, he has it all. Now what did all of this wealth give him? What did it cause him to feel? Allah Azza wa Jal says, so one day he was conversing with his friend, his companion. I have more money than you, and I have more children. Not just more, but I have more noble children. My family is mightier. I have better status than you. Throughout all of this, Allah is saying, we gave it to him, and we caused, and we. Now the man cuts off all of the we gave, and he ascribes it to I. He becomes boastful and arrogant. He becomes full of his own hot ego, that because I have more, this means I am mightier, I am better than you. And this causes his haughtiness to get the better of him. And he begins to become arrogant. And we know that the sin of arrogance is of the worst sins of Islam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pitifully describes his status. And Allah says, as he entered his garden, he was only wronging himself. He said, this garden, I don't think it can ever perish. All that I have here, my palaces, my wealth, my beautiful structure, how can this ever be gotten rid of? This will last for centuries. So he made yet another fatal mistake. What was that mistake? He assumed that just because he had wealth at one point in time, he would continue to have that wealth in every future point in time. Just because he's wealthy now, he shall forever remain wealthy. Just because he's healthy now, he shall forever remain healthy. I don't think that this garden and all that I have will ever perish, ever. Then he becomes so engrossed in his Jannah of this world, he doesn't even care about the real Jannah. And he says, I don't think there's another Jannah. This is all life is here. I'm enjoying myself, why care about that one? Notice his arrogance again. And I don't think that the day of judgment will ever happen. And then here becomes the icing on his arrogance. And even on the supposition, suppose there were a day of judgment, even then if I go back in front of my Lord, I will find something even better for me to live in, even better than all that I have. This poor miskin, he thought that if you're rich in this world, this means Allah loves you. This poor miskin was so deluded that he thought that if I have money now, Allah must be happy with me. If I have health now, if I'm living the life now, well then, that means Allah is happy with me. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives this dunya to the mu'min and the fasiq. He gives this dunya to the Muslim and the kafir. He gives this dunya to everyone. To all groups we will hand out this and that, meaning the Muslim and the kafir, from the blessings of your Lord. Now, what is the response of his brother, of his friend? The companion responded. Notice here, his friend has just been insulted at the height of insults. Notice this man is silent when he's being insulted. But when the man begins to insult Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he cannot stand that. When Allah Azza wa Jal is mocked, when the day of judgment is denied, that is when he opens his mouth. Because that is when his iman gets the better of him. How can you be so thankless? Are you so ungrateful to the one who created you? He created you from dust, and then from this drop of sperm, and then he made you into a man. The point of saying this is to humble this man back down to earth. Who do you think you are? Pompously, arrogantly assuming you're better than everybody else. You come from dust and I come from dust. And now here you are, arrogant and mighty and haughty, thinking that just because you have a Jannah, you are better than other people. As if you do this, as for me, you might do that. But for me, no, I will not follow this path. As for me, Hu Allahu Rabbi, that is indeed my Lord. And I will not associate any partners with my Lord. So he defends Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he says, as for me, Allah is my Lord and I will not associate any partners with Him. Now he gets to the next point. Your arrogance that you have should have led you to humility. Why didn't you do this? That instead of your wealth making you feel better, it should have been the opposite. Allah says when he entered the Jannah, he was wronging himself. The man says you should have done the opposite. When you entered your garden, you should have been in a state of humbleness and humility. You should have thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should have ascribed these blessings to Allah. You should have said, this is not my garden. You should have said, MashaAllah. Whatever Allah wills has occurred. Allah has blessed me with this. There is no power except the power of Allah. And then in the last is his own demeaning. He has been demeaned, right? And nobody likes it that somebody is boastful over you. So he also defends himself. But even this, there is an element of threat and mercy. If you really think, you perceive me to be less than you. Allah knows who's the one who's higher and lower. But if you feel that I'm lower than you just because I have less money and just because I have less children, isn't it possible that Allah might give me something better than what you have? What if something happens to you in your garden and Allah blesses me with a garden, and even if I don't get a better garden in this world, I expect a better Jannah in the next world? As for you, are you not worried that your arrogance will bring about Allah's destruction? Don't you have a sense of fear and shame and cause all of your land to become completely infertile, or take your water will simply disappear and you will not be able to extract that water out. And just as they are talking, and the man tells him, be careful, your arrogance might get you Allah's punishment. As they are there, right then and there, the man's warning comes into effect. His whole garden was surrounded. By what? Allah doesn't need to tell you the details. This is Allah's qudra. All of the garden is destroyed. The garden is surrounded by Allah's punishment. Some say a fire came, some say a tornado, some say this. This is all irrelevant. Allah Azza wa Jal says, that which this man was warning against, that's exactly occurred. And the both of them are there, and they see the garden being destroyed. He started wringing his hands as a sign of regret, as a sign of remorse. Out of all that he had spent to purchase it, to maintain it, to build that palace, the roof became the ground. It was collapsed in its totality. That is when he realized. But as usual, regret and remorse after the adhab is of no use. And he says, how I wish that I hadn't committed shirk. And Allah says, here he was saying, I have more children, I have an army, I am Aziz. And Allah says, nobody could protect him when the punishment came. This is where Allah's protection is truly shown. At times of ease, the Muslim and the Kafir enjoy the ease. It's at times of punishment and difficulty that Allah's wilayah is really shown. At times of ease, everybody enjoys ease. It's at times of adhab, at times of distress, when the dua needs to be answered, when the adhab comes. This is when the mu'min is separated from the kafir and the fasiq. Allah is the one who has the best reward and the best end result. The real winner is not the winner who's rich at one point in his life. He's the one who's wealthy and happy for eternity. And that's in Jannah. The real winner doesn't just look at one day, he looks at eternity. And the only being that will give you that eternity, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.